Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Innovationg Conversation. Now, today we are joined by Ediris Mohamed. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi Ricardo, great to meet you again. This time in a podcast setting. So
Pleasure seeing you. If you'd like to introduce yourself to the audience, please.
yeah, my name is Idris Mohamed. I am the CEO and founder of Chainvest. Chainvest is a platform that connects startups and investors seamlessly using AI matchmaking.
Right, so
It's not
tell me.
quite Tinder for
Mhm.
investors. You're not swiping left or right, but it's more of a ChatGPT style AI model where investors can go on there and search up whatever it is they're looking for. It could
Mhm.
be I'm looking for a fintech startup, pre-revenue, post MVP, three founders, one's exited, as
Mhm.
niche as you like, and it kind of show them almost like a crowdfunding style. It will show them all different types of startups, and
Yeah.
they can connect with them and contact them. And later on, we will be introducing the crowdfunding side, which will be done through tokenization of private shares.
Interesting. And how did you come up with this idea? Because it's quite revolutionary.
Do you know what? It's pretty interesting because I went through an accelerator program
Mhm.
back in July. I finished it, and there was one point where we was talking about product market fit, and then we went into a much deeper conversation with the team about how we actually came about starting this. And for me, I always thought, like, I had a passion for startups. I loved watching anything to do
Mhm.
with startups, Silicon Valley, the history behind it, the history behind venture capital. It's just something that I've always loved. But there's seems to be a much deeper reason for where I started, and it goes back to when I was in my very early 20s. I used to invest in the AIM market, which is the
Mhm.
alternative index market, and it's really penny stocks, right? And it's high risk, high reward, and I didn't have such a great time in there. There's a lot of small companies, very small valuations, small market caps, and it can 10 times in a day, and maybe it might not, and so I always knew there's a place out there and a strong community. I made a lot of friends in that community that want to invest at early stage. They don't want to invest. They don't want to turn £1 into £1.20. They want to have the opportunity to turn £1 into £10, which is what a lot of
Yeah.
angel investors essentially do. And at the time, I did the AIM market left a bitter taste in my mouth,
Mhm.
based on a lot of the companies that were going, going down and whatnot. And at the same time, I was seeing, quite a lot of companies that privately making so much money. It was like, how comes I can't invest in that? If I mean, famously, Airbnb struggled to raise, I think, 150 grand.
Yeah.
And it was like, they got the investment. But if they had one person give them one grand at that time and invested in that 150 grand, I think that's worth
Mhm.
like 3 million today. And it's like
Yeah.
those are the opportunities that we don't have, but we have, these public AIM markets, especially if you're not a high net worth individual who can't actually
Mhm.
access startup material. And so that is the truly what kind of drove my forward thinking, and
Mhm.
subconsciously probably played a massive factor on why I built Chainvest, because
Yeah.
it is just connecting really investors with great startups, because there's some really great investors out there, and we built this to begin with more for them.
Mhm.
And we learned a lot of what we were building with our research from investors that are investing in very niche companies, and those are the ones that have the biggest problems. You're talking about femtech, health tech. We've had some tell us that they get up to 500 cold mails of emails, which is really just
It's ridiculous.
time consuming, terrible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they say without it, there's no business. But then what do you
Mhm.
do when you've gone for 500? And 70% of them are fintech companies, or just like they just don't even match the criteria of what they invest in, let alone being good enough opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I think this is where we kind of decided we need to kind of cater more towards them, and
Mhm.
then start building for the startups as well. And yeah, that's the origins, shall I say?
No, it's quite fascinating because you're connecting the dots, isn't it? Like, I interview a lot of people, and it's always a common a common thing between entrepreneurs is the ability, excuse me, the ability to connect the dots.
Yeah.
And this was born out of your frustration with investing in the stock market, but then also how do I transform it and take this the startup world? How do I make sure that people are able to find good startups, invest in
Yeah.
them when they're just getting started? Because, like you said, Airbnb, Uber, for example,
Exactly.
they are really struggling in the beginning, and it became hilarious how much they struggle in the beginning. One of them, I'm not sure if it's Uber or Airbnb or something else, but I know he got to a moment in their story where they ended up selling pizzas for a conference because
Think
they were running out of
yeah.
money, and they made 10K that way. So
Yeah, I think
he,
Airbnb was started selling cereals or something as well.
that was it. Cereals. That was it. Cereals, not pizzas. Yeah. But it goes to show nowadays we would jump on that opportunity. Hey, you want to invest in Airbnb? Yes, of course I want to invest in Airbnb. But at the time they didn't have enough attention, and now giving
Yeah.
them a platform to be able to do this. And there's I talk with a lot of startups. There's tons of great ideas out there, but the question is always, how do we get past the gatekeeper? How do we make sure that someone reads our email, someone looks at our pitch deck, someone even spends some time with us? And that's always the hardest thing. And yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense what you guys are building. And how, from your feedback that from the startups you're getting, what are they saying?
So the feedback so far has been great. We've got quite a lot on our wait list at the moment as we
Hmm.
plan to launch, hopefully, right at the beginning of January. They're excited. They're really excited about the what we do as startups to try and raise investment. There's a lot, of emails.
Hmm.
There's, you're waiting for opportunities, sort of introductions. The fact that they can actually list on our platform and potentially just get emails saying, "Hey, I found you on here." That gives them, a bit more. We've had some startups say, if this goes how they hope it would, it allows them to build more and kind of focus on building, and maybe they can allow this platform to kind of do a lot of the dirty work for them.
Hmm.
But hopefully it won't be as simple as that, of course, everybody knows, but it gives them something to kind of like sit back and kind of allow them to work harder on everything else that they're building. And because as a startup founder myself, you've got to leverage different, you got to kind of focus on where you put your time in. You have
Hmm.
you'll be building. You've got to stop sometimes in the middle of that. You've got a meeting here and a
Yeah.
meeting here and a meeting there, and you've constantly got to do that. And it's great, but at the same time, if there is a way to kind of streamline and take a bit of time away from what you're doing, um, then that's pretty helpful for a startup. But they're excited about the opportunity for them to be discovered. And we've had a few, conversations with a few scouts, venture
Hmm.
scouts, and stuff like that, and how they would like to leverage our product to kind of scout talent,
Hmm.
companies potentially that match their program and grants and stuff like that. I mean, it's actually really amazing the opportunities that can come out of this, because one of the conversations we had with a company is, they offer grants out to certain companies, and maybe they can just search around and see if they can find startups that
Hmm.
and reach out to them. And it's like, that is, I wish something like that was around for me a long time ago. Can you imagine getting an email saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
why don't you try applying for our grant? We think you match." I mean,
Wow, that'll be awesome because it's such a nightmare just figuring out what grants are available, what's the criteria, how to even write the grant application. It's a whole science to it. It's not
yeah,
straightforward at all.
and is it even worth the time? And yeah, exactly that. So yeah,
Now,
startups are very excited about it.
how are you finding, like, I know you're building this and it's going well, but how are you finding managing all this? I'm sure you also have a personal life. You also have friends and family that need your attention. How are you finding, managing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's not easy, but when you love it, it can be. Your passion kind of takes over, and you can kind of find a way to balance it, and it gives you the urge. When you get an idea and you decide to wake up at 6 a.m. and start writing,
Hmm.
it doesn't feel too much like you're working. And we have I have the opportunity to kind of attend events, of course, startup events, and meet new people all the time. And fortunately for me, my personal life is a little bit low maintenance. I do have my daughter who's in school every day,
Hmm.
my wife, and yeah, we just, I try and lock off a little bit here and there, but it's hard sometimes when the ideas are flowing. When you've got the creative juices going. For me, I can be locked in for quite some time, and then when you don't, I'm not saying that I'll turn around and be like, "Hey, I'm here now," but you kind of leverage and you kind of use what kind of time you have, and you balance it out in a way that's actually suitable, because there's going to be days when you might feel a bit rough, and
Yeah.
you've got to look after yourself, mentally, physically, and yeah, just go.
But is this your first startup, or you've done others in the past?
I've worked at others, but no, this is my first startup, and my co-founder Aji, he's worked in other startups, and he's had
Mhm.
his own startup that he's worked in as well, which is more of a hardware side of things.
And now, for this round, the initial round, how much are you guys raising?
We are
If you want to
raising.
disclose that, because this is public.
Well, yeah. So look, fortunately, if you had interviewed me last week, I probably would have said, "Hey, you've caught me off guard." But we've opened a fundraising round. We ourselves have SEIS, EIS assurance, and we're
Hmm.
raising 500K, which is open at the moment.
Nice. So if people want to invest, it'll be easier for them to find you and also take on this opportunity, which is a great opportunity. When you're planning the growth of a startup, it's always hard because there's an element of accurate forecasting and an element of luck when you're forecasting as well, because you never know which way it's going to go. What do you see as your main pain points right now, in order to grow the business?
The fortunate thing for us is that we're building something that's it's a two-way market. It's for investors and startups, which is why we focused a lot on what the investors needed. We did a lot of research on that, because on the startup side, I think we kind of understand what it is, and we was in an accelerator program. We were speaking to other accelerators, and it was like, oh man, I wish there was something that had this, and we
Hmm.
kind of understand the pain points that we're building is for us, and we're just kind of validating with other startups that are with us. We're currently dealing with probably regulations, which is, we've got legal advisors on our team.
Hmm.
Essentially, we know exactly what we need to do. But we have to be really careful with some of the once we start going into eventually allowing crowdfunding to happen on our platform, which is in
Yeah.
our roadmap. So the pain points, I'd say, we understand the pain points in it, and we go through it ourselves, and we see it, and we try and see how easily we could make things, and kind of build a product that kind of helps startups, but really matches the needs of investors who are important users for us as well.
Mhm. Do you
Um,
find it? Have you found it hard to talk with investors, to reach out to investors? Because I know it's always hit or miss when you send an email. So, how is that experience going?
I mean, we've got investors on our wait list, but it was in a
Yeah.
way. The funny thing is, we want investors on our wait list to join our platform,
Hmm.
and it's a different kind of conversation, as you can imagine, as
Yeah.
we are open for fundraising,
Hmm.
which in fact is an easier conversation than we are fundraising. So it's been actually pretty good for us, because like I said, we are solving something for them, and we've had a few of them come up and turn around and become kind of like help us with give us advice on what they're looking for and how to build it, and what their actually pain points really are, and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So yeah, we've had to be careful with our language as well, because investors get an email from a startup, and it's like, oh, it's fundraising. It's like, there's another cold email, but I no,
Hmm.
this is for you to here, we've got a product for you to use. Yeah, the conversations were good, just
Hmm.
completely different from what we're used to, which is fundraising, what we'll be having soon. And we kind of appreciate that level of startup investors joining our waitlist
Hmm.
very early, that we've never pushed any sort of our own. initial fundraise on them or anything, and we've kind of treated it completely separate to that, based on the reason why they're joining our waitlist is completely separate, and we don't want to kind of actually overstep that kind of boundary, and we just want to, they've joined our waitlist for one particular reason.
And how are you finding, I know when you're building something, it's always, it's always hard. You have hard moments. So when you're having a rough day,
Me personally,
hmm
this is gonna all right. So
I'm
this
curious.
is what
I'm
how
always
I
curious
like to
about this.
work. Yeah,
I always like asking this type of questions, and I'll tell you why. Because we always look at entrepreneurs as these gods on earth that can do everything, and everything is easy to fix, blah blah blah. But in reality, we also have really bad days, and understanding and getting some tips from other people on how to manage our bad days, I think is super valuable for the audience. So that's why I like asking this question.
yeah. I've got three. I've got three things I do. Right.
Hmm.
One of them is, you know, there's days where you've got a lot of tasks. You know you need to do it, but you just can't. You're feeling rough, or
Yep.
it's not there, and you need to do it right. And when it's that, I like to. I go on YouTube and I play some very lo-fi,
Hmm.
nice jazz sort of cozy music,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like that helps me work and do all my tasks. And then there's when you actually need to do, you're not feeling like that's when you've got tasks to do, right? To be honest with you, that's just get up, that's getting the motivation to do it, having getting motivation to actually start, like, pushing yourself to start, to push yourself, I think is a
Hmm.
completely different one. And for that, like, I like to listen to some really motivational YouTube sort of videos, and these are really intense stuff, and it's like really like, get out and work it. Nobody's gonna save you. I think you might have seen some of these motivational
Like,
ones.
yeah,
You
I
gotta
do that.
wake
I do
up
that in the
at
same way.
4 a.m. Go to the gym. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do that part, but it's working. And then it's like it really like, and there's this dramatic music playing in the background,
Mhm.
and it's and you'd think honestly, like, I've done, like, there's times when I've listened to that and I've gone to the gym at 5 a.m. and it's like I'm gonna start my day like this. Yeah,
That's impressive. Two things: getting up that early, and also for the gym to be open at 5 a.m. Because
yeah. You know what? You'd be surprised, because that these type of things, I think they can. For me personally, works. It's probably not for everyone. And the third one for me is something that my wife has kind of helped me with. And this one, it goes on. This one's probably underrated, and it's allow it, embrace it, and be okay with it for the day,
ooh, that's
or for half the day, just for that day, not all the time, but every now and then. Just, you know what, today I will
I'm
just
gonna take it
allow
easy.
myself.
Yeah.
I will, and I'm gonna probably watch 6 episodes of whatever in a row. I'm not gonna do this tomorrow, but just today, and not all the time. But I think that helps me tomorrow. I'm a completely different
Hmm.
person, honestly, and it probably does me more benefits. And and the important thing is to make your brain allow yourself, because you won't feel any weight of you should be doing this while you're doing,
Yeah.
probably eating junk or whatever, watching something like that, and it kind of does. I wouldn't advise that all the time, once in a blue moon, but I think that's very that one there is very important, and you should know your body and your mind and and mentally, and be like, okay, you know, this is fine for today,
I,
like,
I do that every once in a blue moon, which is I make sure that taking a day off is part
yeah,
of my plans because I
yeah,
realize actually, you know what? If I wanted to work 9 to 5, I will be working 9 to 5. But
yeah,
because I work a lot more than 9 to 5, and I work till very late hours, it's like some days it's okay to take a day off and say I'm just going to chill today. I'm just going to relax, not do
yeah,
anything, clear my brain, and then the next day I'm going to be beaming with energy,
yeah,
full of beans. But today I need to take a day off. But it's hard, isn't it?
yeah.
Because you
And
always feel a
that's
bit guilty. But
exactly, so that's the part, I think, where for me, my wife kind of helped me with, because once you do, a lot of people do that, and the
hmm.
guilt is there, and they can't even enjoy the time they're having, you
Yeah.
know, off, right? Because it's like, I should be doing this, I should be doing this. But once you kind of align yourself and you kind of accept and be completely okay with, this is the type of day I'm gonna have, you can actually enjoy your day guilt free, and it's much more, rewarding, personally what you're doing then, and it's actually helpful for you then the next day in that sense. Because like you said, like you're gonna some people are gonna do it regardless because it's just not there today. And what's the point of going through that kind of day anyway and trying to feel the guilt and maybe trying to open up the laptop for like 10 minutes and it's not just happening and stuff like that. Just, and the next day that might actually, transfer
Help.
over to the next day, that same feeling as well. If so, that's it.
I'm thinking one of my favorite movies, Top Gun, right? And there's two scenes which are iconic in the movie. Oh, actually, in both of the movies are quite iconic, and it's the volleyball scene in the first movie and the American football on the beach in the second movie. And you see these fighter pilots; they're training really, really hard. It's a super hard mission, and then they take a day off and they go to the beach and they play whatever sports. First
Yeah.
movie it's the whole playing volleyball on the beach with jeans, which is really weird.
Yeah.
And then the second one is okay, let's play American football on the beach. Tom Cruise is also wearing jeans, which continues being very weird, but at the same time,
That's the
it kind of
theme.
shows you, yeah, you need to take some time off every once in a while, right? So
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
But just don't do it in jeans on the beach with sand, because it might be a bit
In
bad
jeans.
combo. Yeah, I'm sure some entrepreneurs listening to this and they're probably thinking, "Ooh, I should build some beach jeans you can take to the beach and do
Yeah, jeans. Yeah,
and
you're
do
gonna see in the
sports."
next Top Gun movie.
Exactly, yeah.
But that was me. Where did you get your motivation from? I was listening to a podcast.
Yeah, and they say, "Ooh, it's a good idea. Okay, let me build that fabric
Yeah.
and that design, and ways of clearing up the sand." So yeah,
Just when you watch the next Top Gun movie, we need to keep a lookout and see what kind of jeans you're wearing
yeah.
because we might have motivated the idea.
I think so. I think we should start asking for some copywriting rights or something, patent
Let's
rights on it or
patent this
something.
right now.
That could be a good way. But it's going back to the business side of things. I'm always fascinated with accelerators and the knowledge they give you. How impactful was the accelerator for you, starting out and actually being able to launch the business afterwards? Did you actually learn a lot of stuff?
Yeah, I learned an awful lot. I was at
Mhm.
Block Dojo, and the team there, they have a great group of mentors. We actually did mentor speed dating, which they had like so many mentors, too
Okay.
many. And you had a few minutes with each one, and they all had completely different backgrounds. Some of them are exited founders, UI, UX, product,
Hmm.
legal. You know, and some of them, when I talk about impactful, one of my legal advisors I speak to till now, I've got beyond he's still mentoring. He's not advising. He's still mentoring. You kind of create that kind of relationship with some of the mentors, and some of them are going to be very crucial to you
Hmm.
in the long run, and you never know. Some of them might be with you till the end, and then you've got obviously what you learn there. As a startup founder, you think you know quite a lot until they kind of like it's like they strip you down and build you up properly, not literally,
Did you
but but
did you
the
did you
all
find it
the
hard? Like,
assumptions. Sorry.
no, I'm
Yeah,
just
in a
curious. Emotionally, did you find it hard for that process to happen?
yeah, I think for me, to be honest with you, like, I've always had a passion for like the startups. Like,
Hmm.
so for me, I was like one of the ones that was in a little bit early. I have this kind of fascination with like the history behind the Silicon Valley and startups, and that kind of like really like even before, way before, like during COVID, and my wife would tell me like I used to mess up the YouTube algorithm. She's like, why is this like? It's like how a poor kid from here built the biggest, just constantly like I used to be obsessed with that kind of stuff, and I still am in a degree. So for me, it was like almost like being in that incubator sort of setting was like it sounds strange, but like it was like a really something that I wanted to do for a very long time. So, but the part that gets you probably that can mentally drain you as well is a lot of the assumptions that you had when it comes to building and stuff. Like you
Hmm.
really learn that it's not nothing is what you thought. To do a proper product market fit can make you question your entire idea. You know to when you start doing proper research, which you didn't actually in fact take into account when you had an idea, can actually make you question the your entire business,
Hmm.
like completely. And I've seen that happen with certain startups, and it's like this person, they've been on it for a year and they've come through there and they've realized that they don't actually have a good, they're not building the realization, but they kind of
Hmm.
pivot into stuff, what's necessary, and they help you kind of find that. But you know, these theory side of things, I think, is very important when it comes to startups. And it's not just about how to write your pitch deck, how to do a financial model. There's the entire like the product market fit, the MVP testing, um, research, going out there, speaking to customers, speaking to users, potential users, clients, and
Hmm.
and yeah, just even then there is the side of like the MVP and the financial modeling and pitch
Yeah.
and how you speak to investors and whatnot. That side of things obviously is very very valuable for me. Though what I took the most out of these programs is the theory side of I probably say like what I thought I knew I didn't really know, in a
Hmm.
sense, when it comes to startups. Yeah.
What advice would you, if you could go back in time and advise yourself a year back, what advice would you give to yourself, knowing what you know now?
I would say see if what you're building is needed, because I think an idea is great, right? But you could take the idea so far until you find out that this is just a great idea. It's not actually feasible. It's not
Hmm.
actually necessary,
Yeah.
really. And how much time and money have you spent, you know? And the thing is, don't I would say do not be afraid to accept that's a possibility, because you can fall in love with an idea. And love, we love our children, we love our family, we love our mothers and stuff like that, and no matter what, we would do everything to hold on to them. And when you talk
Hmm.
about falling in love with an idea, it can honestly be the same. And it's like nobody can ever tell you that it's never going to work, or it's not bad, or maybe you should pivot to this or change it. Like, there might be core concepts that actually are really really good, but there's probably certain elements that need tweaking, and it's like
Hmm.
be open to that, be open to that completely. For me, even a brand, people will fall in love with a brand and a name, and
Yeah.
it's like, hey, you know, it's fine. Don't fall in love with it. Fall in love with it, but don't fall in love with it.
But think before you act, I
Love the
guess.
process. Yeah.
As we're reaching the end of the podcast, if people want to reach out to you, how can they do so?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find chainvest.io. That's chain and vest. Not an actual vest made of chains, but chainvest. It's spelled the same way. .io. You can
Hmm.
find me on LinkedIn. Ediris Mohamed at Chainvest. You could probably find, and yeah, reach out to me if you're a startup looking to kind of match with investors. Our
Hmm.
platform, go on chainvest.io, reach out to me, and yeah, we're building stuff for startups. And if you're an investor, we are building our waitlist as well. This is a platform that we've built specifically for you guys, especially
Hmm.
if you're like looking for like niche stuff that you know exactly what you're looking for, tired of the cold mails and everything. It's time to, search exactly like what you would want, like you would in Chat GPT, and get options, like
Hmm.
you would on a crowdfunding platform, and reach out to them founders like that.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it as well, Ricardo. Speak soon. Bye.
All right.